So get this. Have you ever heard of a philosophy so ambitious, so aggressive, that it basically tried to kill philosophy itself? It sounds crazy, I know, but let's dive in because that is the story of logical positivism. See, this movement exploded onto the scene in the early 20th century, and it asked this absolutely shocking question. What if all those big, grand statements about God, about morality, about beauty, what if they weren't just wrong? What if they were complete and utter nonsense? Just meaningless noise? To really get where this radical idea came from, you gotta go back to the early 1900s. Science was taking these incredible leaps forward, right? But philosophy, well, to a lot of people, it just felt a little stuck. I mean, on the one hand, you had this super dense, super abstract philosophy from thinkers like Hegel, talking about things like the absolute spirit in ways that just felt totally untethered from reality. But on the other hand, you had the breathtaking clarity of Albert Einstein and his new theories. So a group of thinkers, philosophers, scientists, mathematicians, they looked at this and thought, wait a minute, why can't philosophy be more like science? Why can't it be precise, verifiable, and certain? So what did they do? They decided to build a weapon, a tool, a kind of philosophical filter so powerful it could just slice away all the nonsensical baggage that had been piling up in human thought for centuries. And they called it the verification principle. Now, this right here is the absolute core of the whole movement, so lean in. The principle says that a statement only has real meaning in one of two ways, okay? Either you can check it with your senses, you can see it, you can measure it, you can test it out in the real world. Or, path number two, it's true just by definition, like a triangle has three sides. Now, here's the kicker. If a statement fails both of those tests, it isn't false. It's just meaningless noise. Let's think about it like this. It's like a bouncer at a really exclusive nightclub. We'll call it club meaning. So a statement like water boils at 100 degrees Celsius walks up to the rope. The bouncer, our verification principle, asks for ID. Can we test this with evidence? Yep, we can. All right, come on in. Next up is a statement like all bachelors are unmarried. The bouncer asks, are you true by definition? Yes, you are. Welcome to the club. But then a statement like stealing is morally wrong, or God is good comes to the door. The bouncer checks his list. Can you prove that with evidence? Nope. Is it true by definition? Not really. Sorry, you're not on the list. You're not getting in. You're just not meaningful. So, armed with this incredibly strict bouncer, the logical positivists, who were centered in this group called the Vienna Circle, they started their mission with this incredible energy. It was, in their minds, time to clean house. And this movement just caught fire in the 1920s and 30s. They published this manifesto in 1929, laying it all out. Thinkers like A.J. Ayer brought this revolution to the English-speaking world. And then, in a really tragic twist of history, the rise of Nazism forced many of the key members to flee Europe. But in doing so, they ended up spreading these radical ideas even further, especially into Britain and the United States. And the results of this philosophical house cleaning were just huge. With their principle as a weapon, they declared entire fields of human thought to be literally meaningless. Metaphysics? Nonsense. Theology? Just gibberish. And things like ethics and aesthetics, talking about right and wrong or beauty, they argued that's all just expressing your emotions. It's like saying, boo, stealing, or hooray, sunsets. It has no actual factual content. But almost right away, they hit a massive wall. Their new superpower, the very principle they designed to put science on a pedestal, was actually too strict, even for science itself. Think about a basic scientific law, right? All copper conducts electricity. How could you actually verify that? I mean, really verify it. You'd have to test every single piece of copper that has ever existed or will ever exist in the entire universe. That's impossible. So by their own strict rules, one of the basic building blocks of science was meaningless. Whoops. And this internal problem, it was just the beginning. Pretty soon, the whole movement found itself under attack from some of the most brilliant philosophical minds of the century. First up to the plate was Karl Popper. He basically landed a knockout blow by pointing out that science doesn't really work by proving things true. It works by trying to prove things false. You don't test every piece of copper. You just hunt for one single piece that doesn't conduct electricity, because one counterexample can wreck the whole theory. This focus on falsification, not verification, just completely undermined their central idea. Then came W.V.O. Quine. He went after the other door to the club of meaning, that whole true by definition thing. Quine argued that this clean, sharp line people drew between a statement being true because of facts and one being true because of language, he said that line is way blurrier than we think, that the distinction itself is just an unprovable belief, a dogma. And just like that, the other main entrance to the club got boarded up. And finally, thinkers like Thomas Kuhn delivered another devastating hit. The positivists depended on this idea of pure, objective, neutral observation. But Kuhn argued that all of our observations are theory-laden. We see the world through the filter of our existing beliefs and theories. There's no such thing as a perfectly neutral eyewitness. And that idea just shattered the very bedrock of empirical proof that the positivists had built everything on. So, after this complete takedown from all sides, what was actually left of the philosophy that so boldly tried to kill philosophy? Well, by the 1960s, the consensus was pretty clear. The movement was over. The bouncer at the Club of Meaning had been fired, and in a way, his own ID was found to be invalid. But here is the most fascinating twist in the whole story. Even one of its greatest champions, A.J. Ayer, admitted years later, and I quote, "Nearly all of it was false." But then he added something absolutely crucial. He said it was true in spirit. The spirit of demanding rigor, demanding clarity, demanding that our big ideas have some connection to evidence. That part, he said, was right. And you know what? That spirit is still with us. Even though the movement itself failed, its ghost is kind of everywhere. It forced philosophers to be way more careful and precise with their language. It helped push psychology and the social sciences toward empirical, evidence-based methods. And it pretty much created the philosophy of science as its own formal discipline. So while logical positivism is, for all intents and purposes, dead, it leaves us wrestling with the exact same massive question it tried and failed to answer for good. In a world just flooded with information and claims, how should we draw the line between what makes sense and what is simply nonsense?